Going on, everybody? This is the Daily Fantasy Show brought to you by DFO. It is Saturday, November 11th. We have a pretty solid 10-game slate tonight. Let's hop to it. Again, since it's a bigger slate and I'm losing my voice, I will touch on the games that I like more. The ones I don't really like, I won't hit on too much. But let's rock and roll. First game of the night, we have Toronto traveling to Boston to face the Bruins. This is a home and home. They played last night. Toronto won in OT. Tonight it's going to be Tuukka Rask against Curtis. We're just going to call him Curtis. No, the heater's fine. I have a cold, so rocking the jacket. So for me, now that Boston's home, Boston top line definitely in play. I know they're on a back-to-back, but 9 of the 20 teams are on back-to-backs tonight, so you're probably going to end up using someone on a back-to-back. Why not Boston? They're the most expensive line stack tonight. There are some nice cheaper stacks that let you get in Boston 1. I think, against Toronto's backup. I'm just going to call him Curtis. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. I think this is a bump for Bergeron, Pastrnak, Marchand. Obviously, they will probably be out against the Kadri line. Or, no, not against the Kadri line. Actually, I don't even know, because Matthews is still out. So you're going to have to check Adams' line matching article for that. But that doesn't bump down, Boston for me at all. Torrey Krug still reasonably priced on the blue line, 5,100. You want to go Charlie McAvoy at 4,400. I can get down with that. Again, I didn't have interest in Toronto last night, and JVR kind of burned me a little bit. But I'm in the same boat tonight. I don't really have too much interest in Toronto, especially with Matthews out. You want to go with like a mini of JVR, Marner, Riley. Okay, I mean they might see after last night. They may see the Bergeron line, so make sure to check 80's line matching article for that. Excuse me, nose. No interest in my boy Curtis. I think, Boston, if you throw salary to the wind, is probably up there in the top 3 plays of the night. Again, they are expensive. They are on a back-to-back. So, but I don't have any interest in Curtis. Same thing with Tuukka. And I don't have too much interest in Toronto, but again, I don't really believe in Tuukka as being a good goalie. Toronto can score, as they showed last night. If you're going to use Boston, you want a cheap goalie, you can use Tuukka in a GPP. I think that is reasonable. I just, I'm probably not going to go there in net tonight. So let's move on to the second game of the night. We have the Buffalo Sabres on a back-to-back traveling to Montreal. Buffalo lost to Florida last night, 4-1. It is going to be Charlie Lindgren in net against either Leonard on a back-to-back or Chad Johnson. Montreal's a huge favorite in this game, and I'm going back to the Montreal well here, even though they were a big letdown against Minnesota. Jonathan Drouin and Shea Weber should be back. The way, to fit in a Boston, you can use Montreal 2, which is Drouin, Galchenyuk and Lehkonen. They're 13, like a little over 13,000 a full stack. I think you can pair them with Weber if he's in. You just have to check because he was kind of a late scratch the last game. It wasn't after lock, but it was, pretty close before their game locked. So you have to check that. I also like the top line because Pacioretty, just the shot generator. He's on there with Deneau and Shaw, I believe. Again, if you are using either of those two lines, I would strongly urge you to use Weber if he's in. He still has the red day-to-day next to him, so it could push down his ownership a little bit. If he is out, Petrie, 3,500, it's definitely in play. And again, if Weber's out, I think Joe Morrow at 2,900 is also in play. I think you can go there as well. Again, the Eichel line was a pretty big letdown last night as well, but now they're on the road. Now their coach can't match up Eichel with the top line, even though it's probably going to end up that way anyway. I think, nice contrarian stack tonight would be the Buffalo Sabres, Eichel, Kane, and Pominville. That's really about the interest I have for Buffalo. I mean, you can go to the Ryan O'Reilly line again. They're a huge letdown. They've been pretty bad this season. I know they're on the power play. Who knows if Lindgren is actually, coming back to earth. He could have just been riding on the clouds for the first few games. It is a Montreal goalie. Keep in mind, the team is pretty bad defensively. If you're going to use Buffalo, Scandella, Walrus the line is still out at 3,900. Or you can use Nathan Beaulieu, 3,000. He saw a pretty good amount of minutes. Or even Antipin. I'd prefer to go Scandella than Beaulieu. Net Lindgren, 7,700. He is a huge Vegas favorite, so he's probably going to have ownership by default at 7,700. If you're using the Canadiens, you can make a case for sure. I don't mind him at 7,700. I think there's, compared to some other options, you can go there. Be interesting to see who starts for Buffalo. Robin Leonard on a back-to-back at 7,200 would interest me a little bit. But again, Beaulieu is out. This is what happens when you fall asleep in the middle of the day. So, yeah, I go Scandella, and then I would probably go Antipin. If Chad Johnson is starting at 7,000, I think he is in play as well, just because Montreal is going to have pretty decent ownership because of the Vegas line. One thing that would make me think that it might be a little bit lower than it should is because they were pretty chalky. It's Drouin, Galchenyuk, and Lehkonen. One thing I will say, because they did lay a dud against Minnesota, they might have a little bit suppressed ownership, but I think you would be getting Chad Johnson at really low ownership. I think, he's in play because Montreal is either scoring 6 or they're scoring none. That's the way they've been all season. So if you are thinking the latter, then, for a cheap 7,000, I think you can make a case as a GPP flyer for Chad Johnson. So let's move on to the next game of the night. We have, what did I do here? Oh, that's cool. Montreal 3. You can hold on. I don't know what I did. There we go. They're they're a couple thousand less than Montreal too, just because it is. Who's the most? Brandon Gallagher is the most expensive player on that line. With, hold on, let me pull it up. What? Polkanic and Paul Byron. I always liked Gallagher. I think I prefer Montreal 2 to Montreal 3 tonight, just because I think there aren't too many super expensive lines, but this would be a good spot for Montreal 3. I mean, they were higher owned than I thought they would be last game, which they were pretty high owned for a third line, which was pretty crazy. I think you can go back there. I think you're going to get them at a reduced ownership than you did last time for sure. I'm always a huge or a big Brandon Gallagher fan. Him and Matt he reminds me of Matt Zuccarello a little bit. Just they battle it out, like kind of the same. So yeah, I definitely think. For third line purposes, I think you definitely can go there. If you're using like a Boston 1, you're having trouble fitting in Montreal 2 with decent defensemen, I think you definitely can go to Montreal 3. So let's move on to Columbus, Detroit. Columbus is on back-to-back. They lost to the Hurricanes last night. Now they get a fresh Detroit team. It's going to be Jimmy Howard. Excuse me. Jimmy Howard for the Red Wings. Don't know who's going to start for Columbus. I probably lean towards Korpisalo, but you never know with Tortorella. He's, likes to keep it close to the vest. From the Detroit side, I really like this top line tonight. It's one of my favorite cheaper lines. Zetterberg, Mantha, and Nyquist. They also see the power play together. Columbus is on back-to-back now on the road. I think this is a decent spot for them. I really like Mantha. I wish, I've said it every time Detroit's on this way. I wish Mantha, Anthony Ciu, and Larkin would stay together, but, Zetterberg playing with Mantha is also really nice. Don't really like the defenseman for Detroit. You want to go Mike Green at 4,300? Be my guest, but I'll probably fade the defenseman from the Red Wings tonight. The top line for Columbus, they had a lot of good scoring chances last night. Cam Ward made some really good saves on Panarin and Atkinson. I think they go overlooked again. Again, I'm not a huge back-to-back on the road guy, but you can definitely make a case for going back to Wenberg, Atkinson, Panarin. At the end of the day, it is the Red Wings. They are poor defensively. Jimmy Howard is old. So I definitely think you can go back to Columbus one. They're reasonably priced. Panarin's down under 6,000 now. If you want to pair him with the D-man, Werenski's under 5,000. Even Seth Jones is only 5,000. I think they're moderately priced, and they probably, since they're around the same price of Nashville, who's probably going to be chalk tonight. Columbus probably goes overlooked again, especially because they're on the road, and I think this is a decent spot for them. If it is Korpisalo at 7,600, I prefer a couple other options at 7,700 to him. Jimmy Howard at 7,300 is a good price for him. I think you can make a case for him in a GPP at 7,300, especially if you're using Detroit. I just wouldn't, plug him in if you're using two other teams unless you needed the salary. But I don't mind him, in a GPP. He's more of like a middle of the road goalie play for me tonight. But I'd rather use him than say like 8,300 Steve Mason. So I'd rather play cheaper goalies than spend up. So Jimmy Howard didn't play in a GPP. So let's move on to the next game of the night. We had the Florida Panthers traveling to New Jersey to face the Devils. The Panthers beat the Sabres last night in Buffalo 4-1. New Jersey is fresh. It's going to be Schneider, probably up against Reimer. I doubt they'll have Luongo go back-to-back. This definitely puts New Jersey 1 in play for me. I think they go overlooked for sure. I don't know if they're going to go super overlooked, but as a big slate, you probably get them under 10%, especially with, Nashville, the Blues, Winnipeg, Montreal being a heavy favorite, Boston. So I really like the top line tonight. Nico Hischier, Taylor Hall, Kyle Palmieri. They're moderately priced, a little under 18,000. They're going to avoid Barkov tonight. They'll probably be going up against Trocheck. You just have to make sure, check 80's line matching article for sure. Will Butcher 4,300. Okay. I prefer to go John Moore at 3,000. He sees a lot of ice time, cheap, has some power play exposure. I like that. I like Severson if he's in. I don't know why they sat him the other game, but my preference would be more Butcher than Severson. I think Florida 1 is going to be chalky just based off recency bias and how well they performed last night. You can make a case for going back there tonight. They are pretty expensive. I think they are the fourth most expensive line stack. They are back-to-back on the road. So while you definitely can make a case to go back there, if I had to choose between, Florida 1 and Boston 1 with, back-to-back teams, I'd rather go Boston because they're home. They're also in a better matchup. But you definitely can go back to Barkov, Huberdeau, Dadonov. They're one of the elite lines in the NHL. I'm probably not going to go back there just because maybe it's a bad bias for me. I think it probably is a bad bias, and I might need to go back and research it a bit more, but I usually fade teams back-to-back on the road. In net, so if you're going to use Florida, it looks like Yandel. Yandel is with the top power play unit now, 4,200. Ekblad is 5,000. Yandel correlates better. At least how they were last game. I would assume it's going to be the same tonight. In net, Reimer 6,900. I think we'll garner some ownership. I think just because many people think Florida is going to win this game, you definitely can make a case for Reimer, especially if you're using Florida. It definitely frees up salary to get in a moderately expensive second stack. On the flip side, Corey Schneider at 7,900. I think, using the Devils, I definitely would consider Schneider. Again, just because I like targeting teams that are on back-to-back on the road, even if it is, one of the elite scoring lines in Florida 1. I think you can make a case for Schneider at 7,900 for sure. So let's move on to the next game of the night. We have the Minnesota Wild traveling to Philadelphia to face the Flyers. As always, it's going to be Brian Elliott against Devin Dubnyk. Dubnyk's coming off a 41 save shutout. He is 7,300. I think he will be moderately popular. Again, as I always do, I'm going to recommend the Flyers top line It's not one of my favorite plays tonight, but they are definitely up there. They are, oh, they are the third most expensive stack of the night, right behind Boston 1 and Winnipeg 1. But Couturier, Giroux, Voracek is a really good line. They've been insanely productive the past few games. Personally, I'm not going there myself. I think, they may go overlooked just because people may be on, Zucker and Dubnik based off recency bias. I think you can go back there for sure. Ghost is moderately priced at 5,600. Provorov 5,300. I definitely go Ghost because he sees the power play correlation. Philadelphia 2 doesn't really interest me as much now that Fipolo is not on the power play, the top power play. I don't mind using Wayne Simmons. I think you can use him just because he scores most of his goals on the power play. But, I think there's better secondary lines to go to tonight. Now, on the Minnesota side, I'm not really sure that, I would put Minnesota 1 kind of in the same range I have Detroit 1. There's the top 5-6 plays, and then there's a handful, another 5-6 plays on the second tier. I'd put them as a second tier play. Koivu, Stahl, Niederreiter, Zucker. I think Ennis is up with Koivu now, right? That's kind of weird. But yeah, Stahl, Niederreiter, Zucker is, up there for me. They're not an elite option for me tonight, but I think you definitely can go there. Elliott is 7,300. He's better than people think he is. Elliott is 7,900. He's better than people think he is, but, he's not a great goalie, but he definitely can hold his own. He was the playoff goalie for the Blues when they made it a couple years ago. So, but if you definitely want to go back to the Zucker line, based off their production. I mean, it was basically just Zucker. He had, 3 goals, 1 assist, 1 was shorthanded. I like Spurgeon at 4,800, Suter at 5,000 if you want to spend up a little bit, and Dumbo, whatever you want to call him. 3,300 is a decent punt. He shoots the puck a lot of ill-advised shots, but that doesn't matter for DFS. Elliott, 7,900. I think there's better spots to go tonight. Even though Minnesota's on the road, I think they're going to be competitive. They're healthier now. As for Dubnik at 7,300, coming off a shutout, especially if you're using Minnesota, I think you can definitely make a case for that. The price is good. The recency game logs are good. After back-to-back poor games, 41 save shutout, he's probably going to be somewhere in between that tonight. I wouldn't expect 2 bad games and 2 massive shutouts, but 2 goals on 30 shots is definitely viable, and that's decent for a goalie at 7,300. Man. Let's move on to the next game of the night. We have the Chicago Blackhawks traveling to Carolina to face the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes are on a back-to-back. They beat Columbus 3-1 last night. The TSA line had a good night. Stahl had 2 goals. Aho had just had 1 assist, and but I think you can go back there tonight. I don't think it's overly necessary. I mean, it is Darling against Forsberg, so, you know, Carolina does get a bump. They always put a decent amount of shots on net. So you definitely can go back there tonight. TSA would be my preferred play, but you can also go, you know, Skinner, Ryan, and Lindholm. They are very cheap. They let you get in a like a Nashville Yossi, a more expensive stack, and like say the Flyers, something like that. Skinner was a big letdown yesterday, but I think you can definitely go back to the second line tonight. For Chicago, I like the top line, but, you know, I don't know if it's like a necessary play tonight for me. Again, I'm not a huge Chicago guy. I don't think the team is very good. They top loaded the top line. You know, it's Kane, Tays, and my brain is failing me right now. Is it Tays, or is it back to Tays, Sod, and Panic? Did they go back to that? Oh, Sharp. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, thank you. Brain is melting. Yeah, Carolina PK has been bad. That is the thing. I mean, Darling is better than Cam Ward. But again, yeah, Carolina PK not good. So if you want to, you know, you want to get a little bit different, I think you can power play stack the Hawks tonight. I think that's viable. The top line, of course, is in play. Patty Kane's pretty expensive at $7,500, but Sharp brings down that price at $4,200. So you know the top line's in play. Just from years of playing DFS, I'm just not a huge Chicago guy, which might be another bad bias. I probably should start writing that down. I should probably start writing down my bad biases and revisit them. But that's for another day. Anton Forsberg, 7,400. I don't really want to go there because as much as I like Anton Forsberg, Chicago isn't great defensively. Carolina puts a lot of shots on net, so this can, I mean, if you think he's going to stop most of them, okay, you can go there, but, you know, this could be like a 4-goal on 33 shot type of deal, and that's just not going to cut it. Same for Darling. You know, the PK troubles do worry me. Back-to-back does worry me. I know it's not Cam Ward. If you put a gun to my head and say pick a goalie from this game, I'm going to go Scott Darling because they're the same price. He's at home. Carolina is is better defensively. I know their PK sucks, but they are sound in their own zone. On the defensive side, Falk at 4,600, Slavin 3,800. Hannafin is getting up there. I know he had an assist yesterday. I'd rather go Slavin or Falk. For the Blackhawks, again, Cody Franson would probably be my preferred play at 3,500. I'm not a huge Keith or Seabrook guy. I'd rather go Franson. So let's move on to the next game of the night. We have the New York Islanders traveling to St. Louis to face the Blues. The Islanders got absolutely wrecked last night. They looked awful. And now it's going to be Jake Allen against, 95% sure it's going to be Thomas Greiss. Halak took one for the team. I wish they would call it Gudlevskis. He's my buddy. He's the guy who started for Latvia in the Olympics in the semis and almost beat Canada. Dude stood on his head. But, maybe he's not a good NHL goalie. Who knows? But anyway, Islanders got curb stomped last night. I think St. Louis, The top line is definitely going to be popular. They've been elite lately. Shen, Schwartz, Tarasenko, and I would not blame you if you went there. I think they're going to be moderately chalky. I think Nashville is going to be the highest owned team of the night just based off price and matchup. But, I wouldn't be surprised if St. Louis was the second highest owned team tonight. But you definitely, yes, they are a very good cash play. Definitely need some, I would definitely have some exposure to, Tarasenko or Schwartz or Pietrangelo in cash. GPP probably, I would assume they're going to be, because it's a bigger slate, around 10-15%. If you can fit Pietrangelo in there at 6,600, I think you can go there for sure. He is one of the most expensive goalies, but he's probably, if you're going to four-man stack, Shen, Schwartz, Tarasenko, Pietrangelo, I think, he's probably up there in the conversation for the best play besides Tank between those four. So if you can fit him in, definitely go there. Joel Mundeson's up to 4,000, but he is a shot block extraordinaire. He actually has been scoring a couple goals lately. I don't mind going there either if you need the 2,600 discount. If you want to go to the second line of the Blues, I think that is in play as well. They are around the same price as Montreal 2. You're going to get them lower owned than Montreal 2. Again, for me, they don't shoot the puck enough. But if you do go there, you can use Colton Pyarko. It is the Islanders on a back-to-back. They are poor defensively, especially on the road. You saw it yesterday. They got absolutely wiped. They gave up almost a couple shorthanded goals. I know Matthias Janmark had a shorty. I don't know what the heck Tavares was doing. He was just standing there looking at him. But, if the Islanders come out the same way they did yesterday, they're going to get, wrecked. From an Islanders perspective, you can go back to the top line for the Islanders. It's not one of my favorite plays tonight, but I do think they rebound a little bit. They're more middle of the road for me. Same with the second line of the Islanders. I'd rather go Montreal 2 or St. Louis 2 or even, Montreal 3, something like that. So, Islanders 2 is kind of down there for me. They're probably going to have more ownership than they should tonight. Barzal was, over 20% in some spots last night, which was, I guess deserved. He was only 4,600. But, if he's going to be around 10% tonight, I have no interest in GPPs. In net, I don't know if I really want to spend 8,000 for Jake Allen. I think this is a good matchup for him. But, again, there's so many cheaper options tonight. 8,000 for a goalie, in my opinion, is a little too much. Especially the Islanders only put 14 shots on goal. So, say they even bump up to 24 and Jake Allen lets in 1. I say it almost every time. That's not going to be enough at 8,000 to be the play in GPPs. You want to use them in cash? Okay. I think these higher owned goalies are good for cash, but they are not good for GPPs. Tomas Greiss at 7,200 is an interesting play for me. I know I know. Goalie tonight is just not pretty, but I got a couple coming up. Tomas Greiss at 7,200. I think he's been playing better than Halak, but this is a rough matchup for him. You want to take a flyer on them if you're using the Islanders in GVP, okay. I think you got to fade in cash for sure. But yes. So let's move on to the next game of the night. We have Pittsburgh traveling to Nashville to face the Predators. Pittsburgh's on a back-to-back. They lost to the Capitals last night, 4-1. It's going to be Pekka Rinne against, I believe Tristan Yari. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but I think Coach Sullivan speaks in 15 minutes. Should know for sure. The top line for Nashville is definitely going to be the chalk of the night. Ryan Johansson's back with Forsberg and Arvidsson. For that price, they're cheap. Johansson's $4,700. Lets you get in Yossi at $6,400. That's going to be the chalk, but using those three and Yossi is a way to differentiate from the chalk. I don't think more than 5 to 7% of people in GPP will use all four. And someone just said, I like Rene. So do I. He is one of my top goalies tonight. I know it's Pittsburgh. I know they can put up goals in a hurry. They have been struggling. I really like Rene tonight in GPPs. You can also make a case for cash. Pittsburgh generates a lot of shot volume, but they haven't been putting pucks in the back of the net. But 7,700, the way Pekka's been playing, I definitely think he's in play tonight. The second line is interesting. Kyle Turris makes his Predators debut. He's going to be on there with, Kevin Fiala, who's really cheap, 3,400, and Craig Smith, 3,500. It scares me too with Pitt's firepower, but that's why he's a really good GPP play. High ceiling. I don't know if he has the safest floor, so maybe you can fade in cash, but in the GPP, I definitely like Rene. The second line for Nashville is definitely interesting. Like I just said, Turris, Craig Smith, and Kevin Fiala. I think that's a sharp way to get exposure to a high ownership game. If you're going to go them, I'd use, if you can fit Yossi, obviously you can fit Yossi easier. I think PK Subban correlates better with the power play. You want to go Matthias Ekholm, 3,300 just because he's top pair minutes. You definitely can go there as well. On the Pittsburgh side, it's always kind of the same thing. But now that, Turris is one of the best two-way centers, or one of the better, I shouldn't say one of the best. He's one of the better two-way centers in the NHL. So is Ryan Johansson. They're very good defensively down the middle. They're just a good team, the Predators. You want to go back to Pittsburgh because you're probably going to get them low owned. I think that's a decent GPP play. How many times are you going to get Pittsburgh at low ownership? Over the course of the season, they're usually chalk. Especially the Crosby line, because they've been really poor recently. If you're not using Rene and you want a low-owned option, I think Pittsburgh's definitely there. You can use the Malkin line. I just like this matchup for the Predators. But if you want to go Pittsburgh, I'm not gonna. They're always up there because of they can score 4 or 5 goals in a hurry. So I think Schultz is a decent play on the blue line, 3,600. Letang is a little pricey for me at 6,000, but again, you're going to get him. He's going to be lower owned as well. So, as a contrarian option, which is weird to say for Pittsburgh, I think you can go there. Especially the Crosby line. They haven't done diddly poop in a few games, so they're going to be really low owned. If you think this is a good bounce back spot for them, then do it. Tristan Yari is an interesting play. He looks pretty good. With Nashville being so high owned, I know Nashville's home, Pittsburgh's on the road on the back-to-back, so that bumps Yari down for me, but maybe it's another bad bias. I like young goalies. I like, Juicy Saros, Jacob Markstrom, those guys. I like the young athletic guys. If you're not using Nashville, you're going to get Yari at really low ownership. He's only 7,200. Again, I'm not, saying, run and use him because I think Nashville's in a really good spot. But if you want to, have a little bit of leverage on the field, Pittsburgh and Yari is a nice way to pivot off the chalk. So let's move to the two 10 o'clock games. We have the Vancouver Canucks traveling to San Jose to face the Sharks. It's going to be Aaron Dell facing Jacob Markstrom. Don't really have an immense amount of interest in this game. On either side, which is kind of weird to say. Louis Eriksson's back for the Canucks. I don't know where he's going to slot in. I don't think it's going to affect the Horvat line. He's probably going to go back in with the Sedins. I think this is, going to be a low-scoring game. Aaron Dell at 7,900. Jacob Markstrom 7,100. The Horvat line's probably going to have just ownership, a little bit of ownership by default. I don't think this is a great spot for them. I like Aaron Dell more than I like Martin Jones. I like how the Sharks have been playing, even though their last game they didn't look good. The couple games before that they looked good. Vancouver, the Horvat line is around the same price as Montreal too, around the same price as St. Louis too. I just, yeah, Pittsburgh 1-5 or something like that on back-to-backs. Yeah, that's why, I like targeting teams back-to-back on the road. Pittsburgh's they're a more veteran team. They don't have too many young guys, so they might have more tired legs than usual. But yeah, so I was saying Vancouver's around the same price as Montreal 2 and St. Louis 2. So I think they're going to have ownership. I just, I don't like this matchup at all. They're down near the bottom for me. Same with San Jose. I just, it is the Canucks, but I like Markstrom. The Sedins are still okay defensively. The Horvat line isn't very good defensively, but they generally generate a lot of offense. Burns is under 7,000, which is strange, but Dell a top 3 cash play. I think you can make a case, yeah. Which is so weird to say on a 10-game slate. Backup Aaron Dell, top 3 cash play goalie. But yeah, I think you can definitely make a case for Aaron Dell and cash. Yeah. That's just, the kind of slate. I was actually just talking to a couple people about, the dynamic matchup pricing. You'll see that the backup goalies don't get discounts anymore. The better the matchup, the higher price the goalies are. And, generally the higher the price goes, the better of a cash play it is than a GPP because of shot volume. But I think, Dell has a pretty safe floor tonight in cash, which is so weird, but here we are. So let's move on to the last game of the night. We have the Winnipeg Jets traveling to Arizona to face the Coyotes. The Jets are on a back-to-back. They lost 5-2 last night to Vegas, who have been really good at home. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it's the road team coming in and having too much of a good time in Vegas. Or just maybe, the crowds in Vegas have been really good. Maybe the crowds play a factor, I don't know. But Vegas has been really good at home. It's going to be Steve Mason, 8,300 Steve Mason. Like, what is that? There is no starter confirmed yet for Arizona. The most, it's probably going to be Raanta at 6,900 or Wedgwood at 6,800. I would assume it's going to be Raanta tonight. Winnipeg was kind of a letdown last night. Yeah, Steve Mason at 8,300. There's no way I'm going there in a GPP. You want to make a case for cash? I guess. I mean, Max Domi's off the top line. I think it's Perlini in there now. But Steve Mason, Winnipeg, terrible PK. I don't know if I want any Steve Mason. I don't care if you can. If you're going to tell me he gives up 1 goal on 24 shots, I want nothing to do with Steve Mason tonight. I mean, I guess that's a decent cash play, but for 8,300, I no. I like Arizona won tonight. Derek Stefan, my boy Clayton Keller, and Brandon Perlini. I don't mind that, especially Winnipeg is on a back-to-back. They aren't very good defensively. Steve Mason is a good goalie. I like Steve Mason. I'm a big Steve Mason guy. I just the price is just ridiculous. So if you're using Arizona, you can definitely go Oliver Ekman-Larsson. He's 4,500. Jason Demers, 3,500. His price is down. Those are extremely reasonable prices for the blue line. I do like Winnipeg again tonight. Even if it is Ronta, you definitely can use Ronta at 6,900 if you think this is another letdown spot for the Jets. I think it's a decent GPP option. If you want to get really funky, you can use Ronta and cash. I don't know if I do that. But I did see some guys using Anton Khudobin yesterday in cash, just because of his price. Yeah. No, I don't mind that play at all. It was a big swing, but even with him losing in overtime, he had enough saves. He still had 30 saves. He had a good enough floor where even the loss didn't kill you. If he got the win, I think that would have been obviously better. He was really close to having a 30 save, 1 goal allowed win, which would have been great. But that's kind of a similar play. Oh, it did kill you? Well, sorry. Damn. But I think it's kind of a similar play tonight. I like Arizona at home. I just, they play better in their building. Winnipeg's definitely in play. The top 2 lines. I think you got to go back to the top line. They are expensive. They're probably going to have ownership. Brian Little has been rough on the second line. But line A just slap shot city on the power play. I'm not too high on Winnipeg tonight. Definitely can make a case for Winnipeg. I think just because of ownership back to back on the road, I probably won't have too much. It does worry me, as it worried me yesterday when I faded them. Scheifele Wheeler can go off for 3 points apiece and bury you as late night hammers. And I think that could be the case tonight. I think they can roll Arizona, or Arizona is going to roll that. Arizona's so... Oh, Chad Johnson's confirmed. I do have a little bit of interest in Chad Johnson at 7,000. I have a decent amount of Montreal tonight, but I could see where this is another letdown spot for them. So let me get my finishing thoughts out on Winnipeg. Definitely think they're one of the top options, but again, this could be a letdown spot for them as well. The thing is, they are a late hammer. They're an expensive late hammer, and they can be a very productive late hammer. I like Ronta though, just because of the price. He's 6,900. NJ1 or Boston 1 better for GPPs. I think you're going to get lower ownership on New Jersey 1, and I think this is a solid matchup for them. But, throwing price and ownership to the wind, I think, in a vacuum, Boston 1 is a better play. But from an ownership perspective, price perspective, etc., I think, in a GPP, I think New Jersey would be the better play. So that is the 10-game slate. I think I recommended 3 goalies. But that's the slate tonight. I wish Steve Mason was not 8,300. Questions? Any must-play guys in cash? Let's check it out. Center kind of blows tonight too, right? For cash. Scheifele's almost 8,000. That's just nuts on DraftKings. I don't know if there's any must-go-to centers. I mean, Ryan Johansson makes sense. He doesn't shoot the puck enough for me in cash, but he is cheap. Philip Forsberg for me would almost be a lock at 6,400 on DraftKings. I really like this spot for Nashville. He just shoots. Favorite D-man other than the GOAT, Yossi. I think Tarasenko's in play in cash for sure. Jaden Schwartz. Those kind of guys. Favorite defenseman besides Roman Yossi. In a GPP, Shea Weber. Pietro. My favorite play in GPP tonight. I like Ghost at 5,600. Torrey Krug at 5,100. Favorite play tonight. I know it's going to be chalk, but I just love this spot for Nashville. Weber's still... He skated this morning. He practiced this morning. He still has the day-to-day on next to his name. Indications are he's going to be in, but you definitely got to check DFO, pregame skates, all that kind of stuff to just make sure he's in. That's why I like him in GPPs tonight, especially if that red day today doesn't go away until close to lock. What about some punt defensemen here? Schultz, 3,600. Just... If Joe Morrow's in, yeah, I like Joe Morrow. I don't know if he's going to be in with Weber. Favorite goalie in cash? That is not an easy question. Yeah, Essa Lindell was great last night. So were every single Dallas Star probably. But I can't put... I think Aaron Dell would be my go-to in cash, which is insane for 20 teams playing tonight. But Aaron Dell. Yeah. If anyone gives you crap for playing Aaron Dell in cash, tell them I said it was my recommendation. So if they want to yell at you, they yell at me, and then I'll tell them to call me out on Twitter. I don't know. I just like this spot for him. Yeah. Excuse me. All right, so that will wrap it up for today. I will be in chat in a little bit. Thank you guys for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Love interacting with most of you. Contrarian stacks for GPP. I will answer that quickly. I think New Jersey goes overlooked. I think even the Flyers might go overlooked. The Sabres are going to be low owned. I did not. I welcome everybody. Even I think they're just trying to get a reaction out of me. Yeah, I think the couple I mentioned there, I think Detroit is a contrarian play that I like as well. But yeah, I will be in chat soon. I will definitely be back tomorrow because there is a 4-game slate. Hopefully we're sweating some NFL while we're talking hockey. And I'll see you in chat. I'll see you on Twitter. Hopefully we win some money tonight. We can talk about that. And we'll see you tomorrow. Good luck, everybody.